how do people evaluate the overall evidence? Well, there's an article published a couple of years ago by a professor at Lund University who concluded, after looking at a large chunk of the evidence, it's comparable to that for established phenomena in psychology and other disciplines. He looked at 1,700 experiments, 10,000 participants, 4 dozen labs around the world. This is the table which says for telepathy experiments overall, probability of 10 to the minus 16th that this is chance. For precognition, for dreams, for remote viewing, this is, by the way, ESP in dreams, for presentiment, for precognition, which is conscious report, very strong evidence that these are not chance effects in controlled experiments. Again, Jessica Utz, who we saw before, in her presidential address to the American Statistical Association, she said that the data in support of precognition and other related psychic phenomena are quite strong statistically and would be widely accepted if they pertain to something more mundane. Even skeptics agree. This is Ray Hyman, who said that Darrell Bem's study was crazy. The effect sizes for remote viewing experiments sponsored by the US government are too large and consistent to be dismissed as statistical flukes. Another well-known skeptic in the UK is Richard Wiseman, who said, I think that scientific studies of psychic phenomena do meet the usual standards for a normal claim, but are not convincing enough for an extraordinary claim. Of course, this begs the question of what do you mean by extraordinary? Over 90% of people have these experiences. That doesn't sound that extraordinary to me. Again, why don't we know that? Why isn't this generally known? Like, why does Wikipedia have this completely backwards? Well, there are accusations of fraud, that this is due to fraud, or a belief that the phenomena are literally impossible in some way. And you find articles like this: Annual Review of Psychology, the history of parapsychology is disfigured by numerous cases of fraud involving some of the most highly respected scientists. Well, I will now give you a list of the entire known number of people who actually had produced fraud as scientists. Here's the comprehensive list: 3 people. One with known data manipulation, one that was suspected of manipulating, and one was a case of plagiarism. That's it. So this is after 150 years. There is no overwhelming fraud. There are 3 cases, and only one actually involved known data manipulation. On the other hand, most psychologists, especially academic psychologists, are not taught this. They're taught that there's nothing going on here. So you find articles like this, also published in the American Psychologist, where the claims made cannot be true because the data have no existential value. That's a very strange comment for somebody to say in a scientific journal. Data always have existential value, and to say that something is impossible essentially makes the kitty do this. That's not right. We've experienced this a number of times. So we would submit a paper to a journal and we get the immediate rejection because it's not strong enough to overcome the doubts based on the entire enterprise of traditional Western science. You don't get that kind of response to many other kinds of studies. You do to this, or even this one: I will do everything in my power to prevent public funding for this kind of research, from an editor of a journal. So the reason why I think those kinds of responses are a combination of fear and arrogance is because if you look at where we came from and where we are now, we've only been Homo sapiens and writing for the tiniest fraction of time. And so to have the sense now that we actually know how everything works, that's arrogance. So because we are here, I mean, we don't really know that much about the rest of the universe. And so this is the response I have to that. This is also like skepticism gone wild at some point. I don't believe we've met. I don't believe you don't believe we've met. Yeah. So here's where we are. We have experiences that are reported throughout history. Are they real? Well, some are coincidence, as I said, and some of them are misperceptions. Occasionally you have fraud, not on the part of the experimenters, but on the part of people reporting experiences. 150 years of systematic science. Are these effects repeatable? Meta-analyses say yes, they're repeatable. So we have a confirmation that conventional assumptions today must be revised. And the conventional assumptions are based on materialism, as the explanation of everything. That is not correct. And good luck getting it peer reviewed. That's essentially the challenges that we often face. Well, how does it work? Well, here's standard scientific worldview. Everything is made out of matter or energy, which means that we put physics as the basis of everything that we understand. And from that emerges different disciplines. And this is why Daniel Dennett and others say that consciousness is kind of an illusion. It's all emerging out of matter and energy. It's not something. It's not a thing. All of our textbooks out there are pretty good, right? Where the physics and chemistry and biology, they're really, really good books, but none of them address the underlying assumptions of materialism. You won't find philosophical questions, and this is a philosophical question. What are the assumptions on which we base all of our science? These books will not tell you that. The assumption is this: you are this. So what's an alternative? Well, the esoteric traditions all say basically that everything is made out of consciousness, which all we need to do in this pyramid is put it down here. We just have a new fundamental layer. From here emerges physics, chemistry, whatever. All of these books remain exactly the same. We don't throw away any of our textbooks. But what we end up seeing is that we reframe materialism as a special case of a more comprehensive way of understanding reality. So we are partially here. There's very little doubt that the way that we experience reality is modulated by the brain. But that doesn't mean that your consciousness is being emerged from the brain.